A woman was bending low, plucking leaves into a woven basket. The woman rose slowly to her feet. She turned. Adaora's scream caught in her chest. Where a human face should have been, two eyes burned like fire, glowing and crackling as they locked on her. With a terrified cry, Adaora spun around and fled. The dawn crept slowly into the evil forest, spilling pale, ghostly light through the twisted branches. Adaora sat huddled in a corner of the hut, her back pressed against the cracked mud wall, trembling as though the cold had entered her very bones. Her breaths came shallow and fast, and her eyes ran to every shadow. The memory of the fiery-eyed woman from the night before burned fresh in her mind like a brand. She could still see it. The woman's back bent over the leaves, her simple wrapper swaying softly, and then that terrifying turn, a face with no mouth or nose, only two blazing eyes, like living fire, staring into her soul. Adaora's heart pounded as the image replayed over and over. Even now, it felt as though those burning eyes were watching her from somewhere beyond the trees. She got up and moved stiffly to the doorway, her legs heavy, her back aching under the weight of her advanced pregnancy. The hut door creaked as she pushed it open, and a rush of damp, earthy air flooded inside. Outside, the forest was deceptively calm. The river nearby gurgled softly, and birds flitted in the branches above, their chirping strangely muted. It was hard to believe that the same place had nearly stolen her sanity the night before. Adaora needed to move, to remind herself she was still alive and not merely a prisoner of fear. She walked slowly around the hut, holding her belly for support. Every step was deliberate, her ears straining for the slightest unusual sound. The pawpaw and mango trees swayed gently nearby, their fruits ripening in the sunlight. Adaora plucked a small mango and bit into it, though her stomach churned with unease. She needed strength for herself and for the child whose arrival was drawing near. She ate lots of mango until she was full. Then she moved closer to the riverbank to drink water. She knelt down, washed her face, and gathered water into a calabash. She drank in a hurry until she was satisfied. The coldness of the river grounded her for a brief moment, but just as she began to rise, a strange sound pricked her ears, a low, drawn-out hum. It wasn't the cry of a bird or the rustle of leaves. It was something other. Adaora's heart froze. She turned slowly, her eyes scanning the thick brush, and there, across the clearing, she saw her again. The same woman from the night before stood among the bushes, her back turned, calmly plucking leaves into a basket. Adaora's was really terrified. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her feet rooted to the ground. Is she human? Is she spirit? Adaora's thoughts spun wildly. The way the woman's hands moved was graceful, deliberate, too perfect, too silent. A low whisper snaked through Adaora's mind. Go back, go back. But whether it came from her own fear or the forest, she could not tell. The woman slowly straightened, her spine unbending like a bow released. Then she turned. Adaora's scream ripped through the forest. Just like the previous time, there were two burning eyes, though brighter than before, blazing like coals in a hearth. The fire in them danced, wild and furious. Adaora felt its silent rage pour into her like cold water. She spun on her heels and fled, her scream echoing through the trees. Her arms cradled her belly as she ran, desperate to protect her unborn child from the jolting force of her flight. Her feet slipped on wet leaves, her wrapper tore on thorny branches, but she did not stop. Behind her, the forest seemed alive, branches whipping, shadows shifting, laughter feigned and mocked. "Gods of the land!" she screamed between gasps. "Save me! Save my child!" At last, her hut came into view. She stumbled through the doorway, slammed the rickety door shut, and pushed the wooden bar across it with trembling hands. She collapsed to the floor, her chest heaving violently, tears spilling unchecked. Adaora pressed both hands over her belly and sobbed. "Please, please, keep us safe," she cried. "Do not let them take me. Do not let them take my child." Outside, the forest fell silent, as if holding its breath. Adaora was still shaking from the encounter when she heard the soft flutter of wings. She jerked upright, her eyes wide. At the small, cracked window of the hut perched the white owl she had seen on her first night in the forest. Its luminous feathers glimmered faintly, and its golden eyes pierced the darkness like two small moons. Before Adaora could scream, the owl spoke. Its voice was deep yet soothing, echoing like a calm river. "Do not be afraid, Adaora." Adaora gasped and stumbled backward, pressing her hands to her belly. She was shocked to see an owl speaking like a human. The owl's eyes softened as it continued. "You are not alone. I have been with you since the moment you entered this cursed forest. On the very first night, evil spirits gathered around you, eager to destroy you. You would have died that night, Adaora, but my presence shielded you. I have walked unseen, guarding you and the child you carry." This is very fresh tears ran down Adaora's face. The owl's wings stretched slightly, and its voice grew even gentler. "Your child is not like other children. The life growing within you is special, destined for greatness. The child will bring a great change to Umudike and beyond." Adaora clutched her belly, overwhelmed. A mixture of awe and terror swirled inside her, the owl's glowing eyes fixed on her. "The fiery-eyed one you saw is a spirit of trial. She tests the hearts of those who wander here. The next time you see her, do not run. Running gives her strength over you. Instead, bow low, speak with kindness, and beg her to let you be. If you use words of peace, she will leave you forever. Remember, Adaora, I am always near. Though you may not see me, I will be watching, guarding, guiding. Survive, not only for yourself, but for the destiny of the child you carry." With a final, powerful beat of its wings, the owl rose into the air and vanished into the night. Adaora collapsed to the floor, sobbing, her hands cradling her belly. 2 weeks passed after the mysterious visit from the white owl, but Adaora's heart still clung to its words like a lifeline. Her pregnancy had advanced even further, her belly now heavy and round, making every movement slow and painful. Each step outside the hut required effort, and she often sat by the riverbank, humming softly to soothe both herself and the life growing within her. Then, one afternoon, Adaora had just returned from gathering fruits when she felt that same heavy, eerie silence that had preceded the woman's first appearance. The birds stopped chirping. The river's murmur seemed distant, and even the wind held its breath. Adaora became terrified again. She turned her head slowly, and there she was again. Across the clearing, near the thicket where she first saw her, the woman stood again, plucking leaves into her basket. Her back was turned, her movements graceful yet unnervingly slow. Adaora's knees nearly collapsed. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the owl's words rang loud in her memory. Do not run. Speak gently. Bow low and beg her to let you be. Use only words of peace, and she will vanish forever. Summoning every shred of courage, Adaora swallowed her terror and shuffled forward. Her voice trembled as she spoke, her words barely above a whisper. Great Spirit of the forest, please hear me. I am only a poor woman seeking safety for myself and my unborn child. I mean no harm. Please, let me dwell here in peace. I beg you to let me be. The woman froze. Slowly, she rose to her full height and turned to face Adaora. Adaora gasped but did not run. The woman's eyes blazed like twin fires, brighter than ever. The air around her shimmered with heat, though the forest itself was cool. Adaora fell to her knees, bowing low, tears streaming down her face. Please, mighty one, she pleaded, her voice shaking. Do not harm me. Do not harm my child. Let me live quietly. I will never disturb your dwelling. For a tense heartbeat, silence stretched. Then, slowly, the fiery eyes began to dim. The woman tilted her head slightly, as though acknowledging Adaora's words, and without a single sound, she vanished, dissolving into mist that drifted away on the wind. Adaora collapsed fully to the ground, sobbing in relief. Her whole body trembled, but this time it was with gratitude, not terror. She pressed her palms to her belly and whispered, "We are safe now, my little one. The spirits will not harm us again." As if in response, the baby stirred gently within her, and Adaora felt a surge of hope unlike anything she had known since entering the evil forest. From the corner of her eye, a white feather floated down, settling softly on the grass beside her. Adaora looked up toward the sky and smiled through her tears. The owl had kept its promise. It had been near, watching silently, ensuring her safety. She picked up the feather and carried it back to the hut, clutching it tightly like a sacred charm. After that final encounter with the fiery-eyed spirit, her life in the evil forest settled into an almost fragile peace. The days passed quietly, with no strange voices, no terrifying visions, and no haunting laughter in the night, and surprisingly, no attack from wild animals. Each morning, she woke to the gentle murmur of the river and the rustle of leaves, whispering prayers of gratitude to the white owl who had promised her protection. For the first time since her banishment, Adaora began to believe that she and her unborn child might truly survive. Weeks went by in this fragile calm. Her pregnancy had grown heavier. One warm afternoon, While plucking mangoes near the riverbank, Adaora suddenly felt a sharp stabbing pain gripped her lower belly, so intense it tore a cry from her lips. She dropped the fruit in her hands, clutching her stomach, her breath coming fast and ragged. Another wave of pain struck, stronger than the first, and her knees buckled beneath her. Adaora fell to the ground, her fingers clawing at the earth as tears spilled down her face. She knew instantly what it meant. The child was ready to come. Clenching her teeth, Adaora forced herself up, one trembling step at a time. Every movement sent bolts of pain ripping through her body, but she refused to give in. Branches clawed at her wrapper as she stumbled, her breath ragged and shallow. Finally, she got to the hut, pushed open the creaking door, and collapsed onto the mat inside, sobbing. The labor stretched on endlessly, wave after wave of pain crashing over her. Adaora screamed and wept, clutching the mat with white-knuckled fingers. "Obinna!" She screamed in tears, her voice hoarse. Then, suddenly, through the tiny window, the white owl appeared, glowing softly. Its calm, steady voice filled the hut. "Be strong, Adaora. You are not alone. Bring forth the life destined for greatness. I guard you as I always have." Adaora drew strength from its words. Clutching her belly, she bore down with every ounce of will left in her body, screaming through the pain. At last, with one final push, a thin, fragile wail pierced the air. Adaora collapsed back, sobbing in relief. As she reached for her baby, her tears mingled with sweat as she stared at her baby's face. Fragile, yet perfect. It was a boy. "My child," she whispered through trembling lips. "My precious one, you are my hope, my reason to fight." The baby's cries softened, as though recognizing her voice. The white owl flapped its wings gently in celebration, scattering glowing feathers into the air. Then it gave a final, approving nod before soaring silently into the night sky. Outside, the forest fell eerily quiet, as though bowing to the power of new life. As dawn's first light crept through the cracks of the hut, Adaora finally closed her eyes, clutching her newborn tightly. Back in Umudike, Queen Mother Nenkem watched her son with mounting frustration. The future of Umudike depended on him, yet he seemed determined to waste away like a withered leaf. Deciding that enough was enough, she devised a plan. One bright morning, she summoned a group of the most beautiful maidens from the village. Their skin gleamed, their wrappers were dyed in vibrant colors, and golden ornaments adorned their hair. The queen personally escorted them to the prince's chamber, her voice honeyed with false cheer. "My son," she said, sweeping her arm toward the maidens, "your people need a queen. Adaora is gone, likely claimed by the evil forest long ago. Even if she was here, you know it is a taboo to have a slave as our queen. These maidens are worthy of your heart and of the throne. Choose one to be your bride." Obinna's eyes, dull with grief, flickered briefly toward the women before hardening like stone. "No," he said simply. The queen's brows arched. "No? You haven't even spoken to them, haven't even looked." I said no. His voice was low but firm, like the growl of a caged beast. "Adaora lives in my heart, and no other woman will take her place. If the evil forest has claimed her, then I will honor her memory by remaining unmarried forever." The maidens shifted uncomfortably, exchanging nervous glances. The queen's hands clenched at her sides. "You speak like a fool," she snapped. "No one enters that cursed forest and returns alive. She is gone, Obinna. Gone. You must let her go before you destroy yourself and this kingdom." But Obinna's jaw set in defiance. "I would rather destroy myself than betray her love," he declared, turning away from them. "This discussion is over." Humiliated, the maidens were dismissed. The queen was very angry but swallowed her anger, determined to try again. Days passed, and the queen sent even more maidens, each more radiant than the last. She held feasts, dances, and private audiences, hoping one might stir her son's heart. But Obinna rejected every single one, sometimes refusing to even look at them. The palace began to buzz with gossip. Some whispered that the prince had been bewitched by Adara's memory, others that he was cursed, but none dared speak too loudly for fear of the queen mother's wrath. One evening, after yet another failed attempt, she confronted him alone. "My son," she said, her tone sharp but tinged with desperation, "do you want this kingdom to fall? Without an heir, our enemies will see us as weak. Think of your people, if not yourself." Obinna stared at her with weary, sunken eyes. "My people will have no joy if their prince lives a lie. I will not marry. Not now, not ever." The queen's lips pressed into a thin line. She realized then that persuasion alone would not sway him. But nothing prepared the palace for what happened one fateful night. The prince suddenly screamed in his sleep, a piercing scream that froze every heart. Guards rushed in, their spears ready, only to find Obinna thrashing on his bed, gasping for air, his face pale and slick with sweat. "My prince!" one guard shouted, rushing to his side. Obinna's eyes rolled wildly, his lips moving soundlessly before he collapsed, panting heavily. The queen arrived moments later. "What is happening?" she demanded, fear breaking through her regal composure. We don't know, my queen," a guard stammered. He screamed as though struck by a spirit. And now he cannot breathe properly. By dawn, Obinna's condition had worsened. His skin burned with fever, and his once strong body seemed to wither before their eyes. He could barely sit up, and his voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. The king and the queen sent messengers to every corner of the kingdom, summoning the most skilled medicine men and healers. One by one, they came, bringing sacred herbs, bitter concoctions, and ancient charms. They chanted, burned incense, and prayed over the prince's weakening body. But nothing worked. Each healer left shaking his head, whispering of strange forces beyond mortal understanding. The queen's fear grew with each failure. She had lost her daughter, the prince's older sister, when she was a teenager. She couldn't afford to lose the prince, and now her only child. The king was sad too, and refused to eat or drink. He stood beside his son's bed, his eyes shadowed with worry. His hands trembled as he stroked Obinna's damp hair. "My son," he whispered, his voice breaking, "please, do not leave me. The throne is yours, and the people people need you." The queen mother stood behind him, wringing her hands, her usual sternness replaced by open fear. At dawn, King Ezudu gave the order, "Send for the chief priest immediately. Let the gods speak, for no mortal can explain this." By mid-morning, Chief Priest Okori, an elderly man with deep-set eyes and a staff crowned with cowrie shells, arrived at the palace. He entered the prince's chamber and stood by the bed, his face unreadable. For a long moment, he said nothing, only closing his eyes and humming ancient chants under his breath. Then he turned to the king and queen, his expression grave. "My king," he said slowly, "this illness is not of the body. It is spiritual. A curse has been awakened in this palace. A royal child has been born outside these walls, and as our sacred laws decree, a royal blood cannot live beyond the palace. It disrupts the balance of the land. Until the child is brought back, this is just the beginning. Misfortune will fall on all of Umudike." The room erupted into shocked whispers. The queen's face contorted in disbelief. "That is impossible," she snapped. "My son has never been married. How can there be a royal child outside these walls?" The king was equally confused. His heart pounded as he stared at the priest. "Are you certain of this, Okori? This is no small claim." The priest met his gaze unflinchingly. "The gods do not lie, my king. The sickness afflicting your son comes from this imbalance. But I do not yet see clearly who the mother is or where the child lies hidden. I must make further consultations." The king's voice trembled. "How long will this take? My son weakens by the hour." 3 days, the chief priest replied firmly. "Give me 3 days to seek the truth from the spirit world. Then all shall be revealed." "Less is all." Reluctantly, the king agreed. 3 agonizing days passed. During that time, Obinna grew weaker, drifting in and out of consciousness, unable to speak or answer questions. His silence only deepened the mystery. On the 3rd day, the chief priest returned. This time, his face carried the weight of certainty. He raised his staff and spoke in a voice that ran through the chamber like a bell. "My king, my queen, hear the message of the gods," he declared. "The royal child is alive. This child was born in the evil forest, and the mother is none other than the banished slave girl Adaora." The queen staggered back, shaking her head violently. "No, that cannot be. Adaora should have perished long ago. No one enters the evil forest and returns alive. This must be some mistake." The chief priest's eyes burned with conviction. "The gods have spoken. Doubt them at your peril. The spirits of the forest tried to destroy Adaora and the child, but a higher power preserved them. This child carries a destiny the spirits fear." He paused, letting his words sink in, before delivering the final blow. "The only way to save the prince and restore balance to Umudike is to reunite him with his child. If this is not done, he will waste away and the kingdom will crumble under a curse." The queen held her chest, trembling with rage and fear. "This is madness," she cried. "You would have us believe a slave girl still lives, defying both law and nature?" The chief priest did not waver. "Believe what you will, my queen. But the truth remains. Without the child, your son will die." King Isidro's face turned pale as he looked down at Obina's still form. His voice was a whisper, choked with desperation. "Then we must act quickly. Send the warriors into the forest. Bring my grandchild home, whatever the cost." 5 of Umudike's warriors volunteered to go to the dreaded evil forest to save the prince and their land from doom. Despite knowing how dangerous the journey would be, they were sent to the chief priest for fortification, as requested by the chief priest. Their bronze spears glinted under the weak morning sun, but their faces were somber. Even the strongest among them trembled slightly, for everyone knew that no man entered that forest and returned unchanged. King Isidro stood nearby, his expression grave. "Bring back my grandchild," he commanded, "and do not return without the child. Your prince's life depends on it." The warriors pounded their chests in salute, bowing low. Chief Priest Okorie stepped forward, carrying a calabash filled with sacred water, herbs, and white chalk. He circled the warriors slowly, chanting ancient words, his staff tapping the earth in rhythm. One by one, he marked their foreheads with chalk, murmuring protective blessings. The air grew thick with the scent of burning incense as the spirits were called to witness the task ahead. When the chanting ended, the chief priest raised his staff. "Listen well," he said, his voice echoing like thunder. "The evil forest is full of deceit. If you break these sacred rules, you may not return alive. Obey, and you may return alive. Disobey, and you will perish." The 5 rules. Rule 1. Do not look back, even if you hear a familiar voice calling your name. Rule 2. Do not take anything that does not belong to you. Rule 3. Do not speak unless necessary. Rule 4. Do not stray from the group. Rule 5. Do not shed innocent blood. If you harm even the smallest harmless creature, the forest will mark you as an enemy. The warriors exchanged uneasy glances. The rules were simple, but the way Okorie's voice trembled hinted at the deadly seriousness behind them. "Go, and may the gods guide your steps," the chief priest said dismissively. The warriors bid their families and friends farewell at the entrance of the evil forest, their wives and children crying profusely. Then they entered the evil forest as the palace watched in silent dread. The moment they crossed the threshold, a chill swept over them. The trees towered overhead, their twisted branches blotting out the sunlight. Every step was accompanied by eerie whispers and the feeling of unseen eyes watching. The leader of the group, Uchenna, walked in front, gripping his spear tightly. "Stay close," he murmured, careful not to speak more than necessary. They walked for hours, navigating treacherous roots and strange glowing fungi. As night fell, a thick mist curled around their feet. The air became heavy, and the forest seemed to hum with a low, menacing energy. As they reached a narrow clearing, one of the younger warriors, Kelechi, froze. His eyes widened as he heard a faint, familiar voice calling softly from behind him. "Kelechi!" It was his mother's voice, sweet, warm, just as he remembered from childhood. His breath caught. "Mother?" he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. The voice came again, clearer this time, filled with love and sorrow. "Kelechi, My son, come to me. Why have you left me? Kelechi's legs trembled. Sweat poured down his face as he turned his head slightly, battling the urge to look. Uchenna grabbed his arm. Don't! It's a trick of the spirits! But then came a scream, high-pitched and desperate. Kelechi, I am dying! Help me! Unable to bear it, Kelechi wrenched free and spun around. The others shouted in horror, but it was too late. The instant Kelechi looked back, a horrific howl filled the clearing. A dark, shadowy figure erupted from the mist and wrapped itself around him. Kelechi screamed once, a sound that chilled the blood of every warrior, before his body dissolved into black smoke and vanished. The clearing fell silent. Panic surged through the remaining 4 warriors. Run! Uchenna bellowed, his voice breaking the rule out of sheer terror. They sprinted through the trees, their hearts pounding, the mist curling at their heels like reaching hands. Behind them, mocking laughter echoed, a reminder that the forest had claimed its first victim. As they fled, one thought burned in their minds. If one glance could destroy a man, what horrors awaited them next? Dear viewers, the journey has only just begun. The evil forest has claimed its first victim, and danger lurks with every step. Watch out for Part 3, where we will unveil what became of the remaining warriors and discover whether they will make it to Adaura and her special child. You don't want to miss it.